welcome to the Wild Enthusiasm for Living podcast. I am your host, Dr. Melissa Mahon. Join me for conversations about possibilities and tools for having more joy, more play, and way more of you. What would it be like to wake up every day with a wild enthusiasm for living? Hello and welcome to the Wild Enthusiasm for Living podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Mahon, and I am here today with my amazing friend, Emily Russell, who is an empowerment coach and a trauma-informed breathwork facilitator. And welcome, Emily. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
You are welcome. Amazing. And there's so many things I want to talk to you about that I'm like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah. Like, let's just start and we'll see where we go. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been doing this breathwork stuff. Maybe we dive into breathwork and then see where we go from there. So can you just, I had this conversation with my husband the other day. I was like, I'm going to do this breathwork thing with Emily. And he was like, what is breathwork? And I was like, that's a really good question for somebody who like my husband, who is, not involved necessarily in the coaching, world or the personal development world. How might you explain breathwork to somebody like that?
That's such a good question. So breathwork, which I sometimes like to call breath play, just because, whenever we call something work, it's like, that doesn't sound very fun. But it's consciously paying attention to your breath or consciously altering the pattern of the breath. I mean, the most simple type of breath work would just literally be breath awareness, like noticing how you're breathing. And then what's so cool about it is because someone would be like, okay, well then why are we doing it? We breathe all the time, but it's the one function. If you think of all of the functions that go on automatically without you having to consciously think, I need to beat my heart every minute. And I need to regulate my temperature and I need to digest my food, right? All of those things are being run by what's called the autonomic nervous system, which sounds like automatic, so easy to remember. And the breath is another one, right? It's the only one of those that we can consciously alter with ease. I mean, I know there's stories of people being able to consciously slow their heart rate down, but for most of us, breath, like changing our breath pattern, we can do consciously. So it's actually this brilliant gateway between the unconscious, right? What's going on automatically and the nervous system and your conscious mind. So you can basically reverse engineer what's going on in your body with the breath. So like, for example, if you think of when we get scared or startled, what naturally happens to our breath? Like if you think about it, you go, and it's all up here. And then maybe you're breathing fast, like shallow, short, up in the chest, right? And that happens automatically. It's a body's response to go, oh shit, like there's a threat. So when we consciously choose to say, for example, breathe more slowly, and something like taking exhales that are longer than inhales, and especially directing the breath like downwards into the belly. So it's more like a deep breath like that. You're actually telling the body and the nervous system, everything's all right. There's no threat here. And why that's so important is most of us are living, even though we're going about our day, we're in traffic, we're opening emails, we're taking care of kids. A lot of those things, our ancient part of our brain and nervous system are reading as threats because they're like, oh my God, this is so much, I can't handle it. And our brain and nervous system doesn't know the difference between a lion that's about to eat us and traffic that's really like someone cutting in front of us, right? So a lot of us are living our lives in what we call fight or flight mode. I'm sure people have heard of that, which is the activated state, which is like, okay, I'm ready to either like move towards something and fight it and defend myself or run away to get away from something. So when we pause and even do like 2 minutes or a minute or 3, like of breathing consciously and telling the body, we're changing the input. We're saying, actually, everything is okay here. And it allows the body to switch from that heightened, activated nervous system to basically heal mode, which sometimes we call rest and digest, which is like the parasympathetic mode of the nervous system. And so it's this really amazing way we can activate the body's natural capacity to heal and digest and our immune system to get raised. Like if you think of, in our culture today, what are the most common ailments that people go into the doctor for? Stress, immune system things like autoimmune, that basically like we don't know what's going on, but it's some sort of autoimmune disease, and digestion issues, like all the range of celiac, Crohn's, like all these things that are also autoimmune. And when the body has energy, like when you're in fight or flight, if you think evolutionary wise, you wanted 100% of your energy to go into running or fighting. Absolutely. So your body just does that. So no energy is going to your natural, like building immune system capacity, digestion. So it's interesting when we can change the feedback, like input into the body to say it's okay to be in that mode. A lot of those things can naturally change. It's just like, unfortunately, we're not in that environment a lot of the time or doing things to bring us out of that activated state.
Yeah, that's so cool. That was such a beautiful explanation. Thank you so much for that. Because I think that people don't always get it. And the way you explain that is just really eloquent. Explaining like why that works.
I mean, I almost missed it completely because it's so simple. And you know what I mean? It's kind of like in our that seems too easy to actually be doing anything. So I like to explain it because then I think our brain, at least my brain, goes, oh, okay, that really has value. Even though it seems like, really, what could 3 minutes of, altering my breath pattern do? A lot.
Yeah, that's incredible. So the word that stuck out to me was reverse engineering. So just to break that down a little bit, it sounds like you change your breath pattern and that signals to your body that you're safe. Did I get that right?
Exactly. Like if you think of your body and your nervous system kind of like a security camera that's constantly scanning for, is there anything here I need to be worried about? And I think a lot of us, if you have a automatic, like a Ring camera or something like that, sometimes it's like something's here and it's a bunny running through the yard, right? Same thing with our nervous system. So it's like clearing the cache, like kind of going, nothing here is a threat. And so we can come down. Now, that being said, like when you said reverse engineer, not everyone's nervous system is the same. Like, in fact, everyone's body, everyone's system is completely unique. Your breath is as unique as your fingerprint. It's constantly actually telling you what's going on in the body. So most of us, that's why I start with like, slow breathing brings us down into that rest and heal state of the nervous system. But like, say, if I want to reverse engineer, if I'm feeling really lethargic and really collapsed in, or like very low energy or very depressed, that's the body not having enough energy, right? It's being what we call hypo-regulated down here rather than hyper. So for that person, or on a day like when I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling kind of sluggish, then I'm going to breathe in a different pattern. I'm going to breathe where I'm actually inviting in more energy in a way that's not overwhelming the system. So there's lots of breath work out there. And what I facilitate and am trained in is trauma-informed breath work, which basically means looking at it's being informed of the person you're working with and their nervous system and going, okay, if we're always feeling really low energy, then if I had a bunch into the system, that's not going to feel safe. Right. And on the reverse token, if I've always lived up here at like a 9 or a 10, where I was for about a decade, slowing down is also going to feel like a threat. So you've got to we drip it into the system in a way that goes, okay, just am I going to breathe a little deeper, or maybe pick up the pace a little and just show the body it's safe to have a little more energy. And for someone else who's been up here breathing slower, And slowing down the system shows you, oh, it's actually safe that I slow down. I don't have to be up here. Because whatever we've been doing for a long time, the body goes, this is safe. We haven't died. So if you've constantly been living in stress, anxiety, push, go, hustle for a long time, slowing down actually, even though we know it might sound good, the body's going to go, I don't know what to do with this, and find something else to go do or fix or whatever that is. And if we're really down here, adding energy to the system, if it's too much at once, is going to also overwhelm and feel scary, and you crash back down.
So how do you do that? How do you said kind of like a slow drip? Like, do you start with a certain, count of how long you're doing it for? Like, how do you actually do it so that it's not overwhelming for somebody?
Yeah. Well, this is why I really love trauma informed, because when I started breathing, it's about, I can't tell you exactly. I'm not going to tell you, hey, Melissa, let's take 10 breaths like this. I'm going to invite you to try something on, try a pattern, and then you see how it feels in the body.
Mm.
And then if you start noticing, okay, if I breathe, like say more quickly, and then I start to get not present with my body or thinking about my to-do list, those are signals like, oh, wait, that might be a little bit too much for my system. So a lot of breath work is trying it on and then checking in. How is this actually feeling? So it creates a really cool new conversation and relationship with the body.
Wow, I love that, because that's something that people don't do.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
people don't breathe well, so there's that. But like on top of it, like to do something and be like, how does this feel? And
Yeah.
then do something else, and then to check back in. What is that doing in my body? What's coming up in my mind? And to sort of have that constant check-in, it forces us in a lot of ways to actually start to commune with our body in a way that I think that our today's society just doesn't do.
Yeah, it's so easy to not be connected, or our mind might have a very different idea of what we should do, right? Like when I first started breathing, I was very used to like, I'm going to go all in on anything so I can get the maximum result and transformation. And it was like, whoa, 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 this is this is different. So trauma informed breath work is about, let's listen to the body and actually be like, how am I feeling when I do this? And the idea that intensity doesn't equal transformation. So I don't have to have the fastest, most intense breath to experience this like incredible state, right? My medicine, in which this was my case, was actually giving myself, knowing that I have choice and sovereignty every step of the way, so that if something, it's like, okay, if I start breathing slower and it doesn't feel good, like, okay, I have choice to change that. If I start breathing faster, okay, I check in, you know what? It just doesn't, even if it's as subtle as my body just doesn't want to do that today. And so because I had really, without knowing it, because I had just been going at a very fast pace for a long time. I'm a single mom. I have 2 girls. I was working a job where I was traveling a lot and I loved it. But I was going. And so I had done some other types of breath work, just sporadically here or there.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they would lead you slowly into faster. And every time we got to the faster part, I was like, that just does not feel good. I just didn't want to do it. And then when I got experienced trauma informed and got trained in it, I was like, oh my gosh, that was my body letting me know this is not the medicine that your system requires. Like mine required. I mean, I think for a full year, every time I breathed, it was slow, really long exhales. And it actually was, my brain wanted to say, is this productive? Like this doesn't seem like, right? So it was really rewiring my system to feel okay slowing down and doing it slowly.
Yeah, that.
I couldn't do it for an hour. Like it was at first, it was like, okay, I'm going to take a couple minutes and breathe slowly, or I'm going to sit in silence for 5 minutes. I'm going to go on a walk without my phone, like really baby steps. And that's That is the wisdom of your body. Like slow is not a weakness. It's the wisdom of you listening to your body's pace and messages versus what a lot of our minds are telling us is like, I should be doing this. This isn't enough. I need to fix this, rather than it's not about fixing something. It's coming back, like you said, where a lot of us haven't been, and really being willing to pause and listen to my body might be asking for something different.
Yeah, that. And, that's a conversation I've had with a lot of people just in my life lately. And I've looked at this for myself is that I think you and I are really similar in the like, got to do things at max speed all the time. And if I get into something, I go all in, and I, have to get to the top or whatever that is. And like really taking that time, and even just, it's a mindset shift of like, intensity doesn't equal better. And that definitely like is something I'm still learning even as we're having this conversation. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, that, because that's such I think a misconception is that like there's sort of this badge with busy or with, oh, you do so much, and people say that to me still all the time. And there's like a level of, I do things because they're fun for me, but then there's a different level of, I started this, therefore I need to finish it, or I have to do this at max speed, or how much can I get done in this amount of time? Where it's kind of that constant hustle. And what you're talking about with like the breathing and slowing down is something that seems wildly undervalued. Is
Yeah.
that
And it's like you said, it's so funny because we get a lot of validation from, oh, you can handle a lot. You're like,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize I had a lot of my worth tied up in that. If you would have asked me that a year ago, I wouldn't have known that until I was like, oh, this feels uncomfortable. If I'm not doing something all the time, then who am I? Like, where is my worth? Which is really interesting. So it's a beautiful exploration, really, to start going, wow, if what I do isn't the only like measure of who I am, then you get to choose. And what's interesting is like when we talk about like there is a brilliant capacity in being able to like go, yeah, and I actually have fun a lot of the time having multiple things going on, right? But what I've found is like when I started to sort of slow down, then what was interesting was I felt like I lost a part of like my joy or aliveness. And I just had to be like, okay, this might be just a phase in my healing that's required, and being okay that maybe to someone else, I didn't seem as like peppy and energizer bunny all the time. But I was like, right now, my body wants to be more like cocooned or hermity. And I don't feel like always being the one adding energy to every situation, right? And then what's interesting is as your system starts to, what you often hear is like nervous system regulation.
Mm-hmm.
I heard a brilliant person saying, I love the word resonance, like nervous system resonance, which that one really lands for me too. But what happens is it's not about being flat all the time or neutral, right? That's not the target. It's being able to, life goes on. And when things show up, we have a wider, what in like the trauma-informed world, they call window of tolerance. So meaning I have more space on both sides of my river as I move through life, that I don't bump against the edge and get triggered and like need to just like sleep for 10 days, or I need to like yell at someone. It's like there's more space in that. As that grows, what I've found is there's a new slow, medium, fast pace that's in resonance, that's in range. It's not this chaotic, if I stop, I don't know what I'm going to do or who I be, or like, I don't know. And I didn't know I was there. But what I've found is now there's a different fast, and there's a different slow, and there's a different medium, where I don't come out of like, oh my God, I've been up here and now I need to sleep for 2 days.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool. I haven't heard it like said like that before, but that makes a lot of sense, where you're not always self-correcting, where there's sort of like, oh, I went too hard this way, so now I got to swing this other way. Like if you were to keep yourself in the space that is actually, I love that word resonance. I wrote it down.
Yeah.
If you're in that space, then you're not always trying to like, recalibrate or correct, it sounds like it flows in a different way.
It's like, yeah, I get activated if someone, I have a fight with someone, but I don't go off, I don't hit the edge of the bank, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that was active. It's not like life doesn't happen, but then you naturally, are able to go, okay. And maybe you do like, okay, I'm going to breathe for a couple of minutes because I realized that got me activated, but you stop like taking it out on the people around you, or like internalizing everything and like just collapsing into the story or the thing that triggered it.
Yeah. Well, and that's so different too. You and I had talked privately a little bit about the concept of burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And, this sort of feels like it almost leads into that. It's like when we're not focused on our breath or we're not slowing down, that's often where it feels like people do get really burnt out, because there's almost like a disconnect between like what the body is telling us, what we actually require to feel regulated, safe, have peace, versus like that automatic doing thing all the time. So have you found that playing in the breathwork world and even just the general like slowing down and connecting to your body has created some space from burnout in your world?
Yes. Yeah. Cause like you said, and it's not just like, I love that you said it's not just been breath work. It's been kind of what I alluded to earlier as well. It's like more just in general, slowness, silence, like no input from anything, and more stillness, and that has been the medicine that I required. Like when we were chatting, I was like, I never resonated with the term burnout, because I was
Mhm.
like, I kind of thought of it as like a corporate word, like,
Sure.
and I was talking with a couple friends that I had met at a business, like an entrepreneurship thing, and they happened to work in the corporate world. And we were chatting and they were talking about functional burnout, another term which I wasn't really familiar with, and they were describing it. And they're like, it might just be you're more irritable than you normally are, and frustrated with kind of everything that's going on. And burn out, I mean, it's like literally you feel like your light's getting dimmed.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
right. And then it's just, so it's like that. You don't have to end up in a hospital or have an ulcer, that. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I've been experiencing for like the last like months and months. And I felt like it helped me. I don't like labels when they limit, but hearing that explanation of it allowed me to identify something that I was sitting in wrongness of. What is wrong with me? Why can't I get my energy back? Why do I feel like everything's annoying me? And like, I don't love this job that I used to like love, and what's going on? And I was like, whoa, well, maybe it's been the decade that you've been running around like forever with output, output, output. And so then I really did start adding in like, okay, what if I could just not pick up my phone in the morning?
Yeah.
What if I could like come back to a really simple meditation practice of sitting in silence for
Mhm.
like 3 minutes, like little things, and those little drips into the system, which like in trauma informed, they borrow this word from chemistry, which is titration,
Mm.
which basically means adding slow bits of a substance into another without overwhelming or changing the system like really quickly.
Mhm.
And so it's like really taking a sip of, how am I if I change my routine to not grab my phone in the morning? How am I? And I immediately saw like massive shifts in my sleep. Like I think
Mhm.
within 2 weeks of breathing just like 5 minutes a day and adding in another little 5 minutes of sitting in quiet, for the first time in my life, I actually went to bed and then woke up. And I was like, oh my God, that's what sleep is like? You can actually
Yeah.
It wasn't like an insomniac, but I just always was what I thought was like a very light sleeper.
Yeah.
So I think that feedback also helped me go, okay, whatever this is, I'm going to keep exploring it, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's funny as you talk about it, I find myself relaxing. I feel myself just breathing deeper. 'Cause
Yeah.
there is such an energy to the choice to be like, I am going to slow down and find what actually works for me, for my body, for my life, external to what sort of the status quo is or what everybody around you is choosing. Certainly, I mean, depending on your industry, but if you're in an industry that is heavily based in hustle, there is so much pressure to not slow down, to keep going, to what are you working on right now? How many things do you have going on right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
What are you gonna do next? What's that? Yeah, yeah.
uh-huh. Where like it's interesting because that is sort of the culture of if you're like, I'm working on slowing down and having silence and finding peace. People are
Yeah.
like, what?
Like, what? And you said it's funny because you're like, even when I hear you talk, like I take a deep breath and I find myself relaxing because there's this brilliant thing that's called co-regulation. So when you
Mm,
are around another person, an animal, it's why so many of us love animals being in nature.
yes.
Our systems regulate to each other. So if you are in a work environment, a relationship, of whatever that is, of someone you're around a lot, or an environment you're in, if it's really like go, 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 your system gets accustomed to that, right? And it goes up. And so I also really sort of curated like, okay, where and who am I spending my time with? And how does it feel in my body? Because I like what I was like, oh, that's a yes. And I was like, oh, that's a different, that's an excitement that is a similar vibration to like, that's scary, and I
Mhm.
was like, what's that energy of like being where I feel like, oh, I'm next to a tree or I'm cuddling with my dog, and really searching that out more in work, in relationships with friends, like, and that was really interesting because it's another way you can also help. Like, I think we all have someone in our lives like that where you're like,
Sure.
when I'm around you, it's like, it feels
Mhm.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah, or you can just relax. And it's a cool thing to start to acknowledge that too, of like where does my body like to be and with
Mhm.
who? And it's like really like kind of looking at something really different of are the people that I am spending time around or even like the organizations or the sort of like, your whole environment, like where is that keeping me sort of in that heightened state and like or in the opposite. I've also, worked in environments where everybody's low energy and everybody's
Yep,
like, "Oh, it's
exactly.
Monday,"
Yeah.
and everybody has
You're
that
like,
low
This
energy,
doesn't feel good either." Yeah,
right? Where, finding an environment that actually feels congruent for you, I think makes a huge difference just in how you show up and how you feel.
yeah, and that's where it's like, it's nothing, there really isn't a right or wrong. Like, there's not a right way to slow down or a right way to breathe or a wrong way. It's like everybody has a unique frequency. Like, we all have molecules. We're all literally vibrating in a different way. So when you start tuning into that, certain situations or people or things, like when you change, literally your resonance change, things are going to fall out of what, people call alignment. But that's
Yeah.
just really like an acknowledgement of, wow, that doesn't feel good in my system anymore. It doesn't like go, and that's okay. We're all evolving. We're all different. So that's going to shift.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. I think my last question on all of this is you mentioned a couple times having a longer out breath than in breath, and I just finished reading the book Breath. I guess is the name of the book. Have you seen it? It's like a yellow book.
Uh-uh.
Now I can't think of the author to save my life, but one of the things he talks about is the out breath of like needing to have a longer out breath, and I'm just curious what your take on that is or why that is.
That is a proven, like, if you take one takeaway from this this conversation, if you can consciously make your out breath longer than your in, and an easy way to do that is double the length. Like, you can start really short, like inhale for 2 and exhale for 4. And you can slow down your exhale by almost like you're blowing through a straw, right? So that'll naturally slow it down. But that automatically, again, it's that reverse engineering. It lets the system know and says, okay, we're going to switch into relax mode. And we have this, one of our main nerves, it's called the vagus nerve, that runs down right from the head down into the body. It's like the super highway of information. And when we lengthen our exhale, when we breathe into the belly, because that nerve connects down into the belly. So when we consciously kind of go direct our breath down there, it gives instant feedback to that nerve to switch into the parasympathetic, the rest and the heal and the digest mode. And anything like humming or singing or chanting, there's reasons why these practices are really ancient. It's also toning and strengthening that vagal nerve as well. So that's the easiest practice, is to just lengthen the exhale.
Wow, that's so cool. I love that. And I mean, I guess there's things that, you've heard, or, different breathing, breathe in for this many counts and out for that many counts. But I love your explanation of why that works, because I think some people need that. You can tell me what to do, but I also need to know why.
Tell me what it's doing or why it's doing that, and it's like, basically it's that really easy way to give different input into the system. And it's how we're wired, our bodies, again, when we're stressed, right? We're not going, that's another one. So a physiological sigh, which is breathing in and letting a kind of like a sigh or a out. That one's been studied a lot. And it absolutely immediately brings you out of sympathetic to parasympathetic. And think about it. My dog does that when he gets in a comfy position, right? And you naturally do that when you're like, oh, I feel like I'm home, I'm relaxed. Maybe it's when you sit on the couch, but if you consciously go, I'm going to take 10 sigh breaths, same thing.
Wow. That's cool. I'm laughing to myself because people make fun of me for that all the time, because I'm always sighing or so, hey, I'm just regulating my nervous system.
Right? Like your body just knows, right? It's a way of self-regulating too.
Yeah. That's so cool. Thank you so much. This has been so informative, and there's so much in it. So where can people find you if people were looking for some, your breathwork things you have going on in your world?
Yeah. Well, so I also have a podcast, Shift Your Vibe to Thrive. And some of the more recent ones are a lot about breathwork. But if people want to experience a longer session and some more explanation around it, I have a free breathwork experience that's on my website at EmilyEvansRussell.com/experience. Or if you just go to my website, it's right on the top. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We'll put all that in the show notes too, but I'm just super grateful for having this conversation with you today and having you here.
Thank you, Melissa. This was really awesome. Thank you so much.
Yay. Thank you. See you all later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.